By the end of this video, I'm going to have said the phrase code editor so many times that it's not going to sound like real English anymore, so because GameMaker didn't help us out and give it a cutesy name like Feather, for the sake of my sanity, I'm just going to call it Arnold for the rest of the video. Hello all the crazy people out there, my name is Michael, I like wizards and dragons and making games, and if you've ever written any code in GameMaker, you are no doubt well acquainted with this window here. This is how Arnold has looked for pretty much the entirety of GameMaker Studio 2's lifetime. It looked fairly similar to this in GMS 1, it looked fairly similar to that in older versions of GameMaker. It's fine, right? It's not anything to write home about, but I've always felt that it was perfectly adequate for all of GameMaker's shortcomings. I never really had any particularly strong beef with Arnold itself. Not so much as perhaps other features of GameMaker. Anyway, over the course of the last year or so, Sarah, what's going on down there? Anyway, over the course of the last year or so, GameMaker has been working on several interesting improvements to the IDE, and among them is something that appeared in beta, I think back in, what, probably April or May or so, and if you frequently use the betas, you might have noticed it. If you don't frequently use the betas, you might have heard about it anyway because it's been getting a lot of attention recently, and that is the new and improved version of Arnold. So if you've never worked with it before, you can go into the preferences in a beta version of GameMaker. I think it's probably going to be merged into the main monthly version soon, but like I don't know if Yoyo Games has committed to a specific version that it'll be added to yet. You can go into the preferences in beta, and you can go down to the bottom to where it says Arnold 2 in parentheses beta, and you can check the little enabled box at the top. This is like, what, year 6 of asking Yoyo Games to alphabetize the preferences menu, because it's impossible to find anything in here when they're just added in a random order. Anyway, you can check the enabled box and click OK. It's going to ask you to restart the IDE, because Arnold is now a UI plugin instead of whatever it was before. And once we do that, and once we go and restart the IDE and load up our project, if you were to go into, for example, in this example, OBJ camera, instead of opening up some fancy draggable dialog boxes, whatever, in the workspace, it's going to go straight to a code window. This is Arnold 2, right? So the workspace paradigm that GameMaker is working towards is moving away from like the literal these workspaces here and towards like inspector windows that might pop out when you select something in the asset browser, and those are this took a long time to get to a usable state, but they're pretty nice. That's perhaps a story for another day though. And as for code, this is what we're looking at. So I'm going to go over some of the more major differences that you might be interested in the new version of Arnold if you've never worked with it before. Right off the bat, because I like to record my screen and because having a legible text size is sometimes fairly important, F7 and F8 no longer work for increasing or decreasing the text size, which I kind of wish it did. There's currently nothing bound to F7 or F8, so as far as I know, there's no reason for those keys not to change the text size, but if you do want to change the text size, you can go down to this little thing in the corner of the window. I'm going to set that to 150, and you can set the text size to whatever you'd like. Some other fancy new features that have been added is this little mini-map of the code on the right side over here. And the mini-map amuses me because it's had various bugs with like the tracking of the actual code. Like you'll see if I move the mouse and click on a section of the code, it won't actually like scroll the code editor to that section of the code. Instead, what it appears to be doing is like scrolling it to like a fraction of like the horizontal size of the... Anyway, that's one of those bugs in Arnold 2 that's kind of weird and mildly annoying, but not really enough that I would consider it like a showstopper if you want to actually use this thing. But nonetheless, the minimap is interesting. I hope that bug gets fixed. And if you want a quick way to like zoom around in your code, that's an easy way to do it. So some other major changes you might have noticed is that when I opened up OBJ camera here, all of like the code for all of the different object events are going to open up in the same window. And this is something that people have been asking for GameMaker's code editor since literally before I started using it in 2011. While I never seem to mind personally having to deal with like the tabs and the workspaces and whatnot as much as some other people did, It is really nice to just have access to all of the object events, so create event, step event, draw event, whatever else you might have, all in the same window without having to like jump between tabs. If you do want to jump quickly from one event to another, you can go and click on this event heading, and you can click on like draw GUI, and you'll instantly jump down there. You can click on create, and you'll instantly jump there. You can add an event by clicking on the plus icon, and then if you want to add like, I don't know, what's a good event, like game start or something, you can add a game start event. And where did that go? All right. I feel like it would have been nice if when you added an event, Arnold would just like instantly scroll you to that part of the code. I'll have to check if there's an outstanding feature request for that, and if there isn't, I might write one myself. And from there, you can just treat this as any other code, right? So you can start writing this as you do. Where were we? So something else you might have noticed in there is some varying degrees of like code completion that weren't in the old version of Arnold. So if I were to type something like if, and there's no real reason I'm doing this in the game start event other than that I'm too lazy to go somewhere else. But if I were to type something like if keyboard check, I don't know, VK space or something like that, game end. You might have noticed that there are certain bits of autocomplete there. For example, when I type parentheses, it will autofill the closing parentheses. When I type like curly braces, it will autofill curly braces. You might have noticed there, when I hit enter from inside these curly braces, it will auto-indent me. And there's a whole bunch of auto-completion features like this in Arnold 2. I'm not going to go over every single one of them, because that would take a lot of time. It probably would be rather boring to just hear me read off a list, and honestly, I haven't memorized them all either. I just know that when they appear, they're rather convenient. It appears that angle brackets do not have, like, auto-completion help there, but that's probably because these are also used as, like, logical symbols, greater than or less than or whatever, more so than a pair of punctuation marks. What else do we have? So again, if I were to perhaps zoom in on this a little bit more, and look closely at this punctuation here. So if I were to, let's put another nested function in here. Let's just take a letter key, say when you hit the P key, you end the game or something. You might also know that in addition to highlighting, matching parentheses or curly braces or angle brackets or whatever to help you like find the opening and closing curly brace or parentheses or whatever in your code if you have a big set of nested punctuation like that. We've also got rainbow brackets, so they're not only are they highlighted, but they're also different colors. So, for example, the outermost parentheses here is blue, the one in the middle is red, and the one inside is green. And those are rainbow brackets. Those are there to help you like make more sense of like the logical nested structure of your code. And if I were to keep going, we can keep going. And we've got some more colors. So it appears to go blue, red, green. Please go away. Blue, red, green, purple, white, and then it loops back to blue. Interesting. All right, let's get rid of that. So I think that's it for text itself. You can play around with like the physical configuration of Arnold on your screen to a fair degree. So you can split a view. That wasn't the button that I meant to click on, but all right. You can the navigation bar that was on the top of the code window. If you click on this little icon, you can change its orientation, and if you prefer to see like the headings of the events of whatever object you're in, or if you prefer to see like a list of all the symbols where they're defined, that doesn't appear to have worked correctly. I do not know where that jumped to. Oh, it was down here. Anyway, yeah, there's an outline of like all the symbols in your code, which you can click on and you can navigate to quickly. It's useful if you have like a file that's full of different function definitions. I think this one might be a better example of that. So this is just a script. It's got a bunch of function definitions in it, and if you want to be able to quickly jump to a specific function definition, again, I feel like it should jump to like the line Like, I feel like it should position the line so that, like, the thing that you highlighted is in the middle of the screen or at the top of the screen instead of at the bottom. But, again, I consider that a minor annoyance and not something that actually would prevent someone from actually using this. Yeah, you can click on this icon and you can change it to the top, the side, where it might be a little bit more useful. Perhaps you can change it to the bottom or the other side. I'm going to leave it at the top for now. If you do want to split a view in half for whatever reason, so that you could like edit multiple files at once. So maybe for things like this, it would help if I actually brought up an example of like the old Arnold, so that you could compare and contrast. So if you have a window like this, either in a workspace or in its own tab, if you wanted to split it in half, and if you wanted to be able to like edit multiple things side by side, you could right click and say single pane, 2 columns, 3 columns. Here, you can do that by splitting a view by clicking on this thing and then like dragging it out somewhere. It doesn't appear, and I could have sworn that this worked, but it doesn't appear that I can actually have multiple different scripts open at once. Can I kill this? Can I Wow, this really is buggy. It's like it's trying to do something and it's not working. All right, let's try that again. What I want to do is drag it out this way, and can I, when I'm in here, can I jump to like a different, at least can I jump to a different part of the window from this one? I can? I can't. Okay, that's definitely buggy. All right. It would be nice if you could have two Arnolds side by side like this, but that's, like right now it's literally mirrored with different scroll locations, right? I don't think that's the most useful. That's definitely a bug. All right. So if you want to drag out more than one divider, if you want to have like 3 code windows side by side, you can do that. If you have like an ultra-wide monitor, that might be something that you might want to do. I don't have an ultra-wide monitor. I don't really see a point in doing that. Yeah. All right. So that made it go away. I hope this gets fixed up soon. So what else? So if you're interested in using Feather, which is another IDE enhancement that's been in the works for like 3 years now. Arnold 2 has some degree of integration with it, so you can do some things. If you want to like generate JS.comments to document your code in some way, if you were to navigate to, for example, a line right above, let's find a good one. If you were to navigate to a line right above a function definition, you could hit 3 slashes. That was 2 slashes. You could hit 3 slashes, and it would automatically fill in information for JS.comments, so like the description, the parameter names, and that sort of thing. I think if you do it for a function which Feather can infer the types of the variables, it should autofill. Oh no. Feather should be able to infer the types of these variables as like numeric types. Because like we're doing math on them down here. Anyway, this can be handy. It can take some of the boring, tedious, stupid parts out of writing documentation. It doesn't make filling in actually writing descriptions for things any more fun, but at least you don't have to like type out or copy and paste like @param, curly braces, data type a million times anymore. Let's see. So this next thing is something that's kind of still pretty broken, honestly, but I'd like to talk about it anyway because presumably at some point in the future it won't be broken. So Arnold 1 had some limited support for refactoring things, so like automatically renaming variables and stuff. Was this misspelled this entire time? Or did I accidentally do that when I was clicking around in here earlier? I forget what the keyboard shortcut was in Arnold 1. It was like Control-Shift-R or something like that, or Control-Shift-K or something like that. And if you were to do that, it would pop up a box that was like, rename this symbol, and then if you typed in a new name, it would attempt to rename the symbol everywhere where it was referenced, and it would get it some of the times, and other times it would just not work. That is also present in Arnold 2. If you hit Control-R with the cursor over a variable name, it will pop up a box that says rename identifier, and you'll be able to type in a new name. That does not appear to work very well right now. So as you can see, nothing happened when I did this. Ideally, it would have renamed all instances in this function of point_min to like A, and then we could do like points A and B or something like that, but that didn't happen. If you go into an object, it seems to work a little bit better. So if I were to take this variable, maybe I won't take that one. Maybe let's take one that's referenced in a few more places. And if I were to say like VB_floor, Control-R, we could call this the the floor vertex buffer, and it'll rename it in this file. It'll also rename it farther down when it's trying to be drawn if it's in the same object. Let's search for other occurrences of it. If you go into, like, another script, it seems to have a lot more trouble. I'm not sure if that's a bug or if that's just because Feather can't prove that this is, like, the same instance, the same occurrence of that variable. Because, like, this is a global script, you can call it from anywhere because GameMaker is very hand-wavy like that. I am not sure at this current moment how much I would trust the refactor features in GameMaker, just because it seems to miss so many times. Let's put this back to what it was before. If you were to rename something in, like, the asset browser, let's search for where fnt_demo is referenced in the code. In the old Arnold, if you were to rename an asset in the asset browser, like fnt_ that we use for text, these are really dumb names. GameMaker/Feather would have been able to automatically refactor all references to the asset in your code, so you wouldn't have to go and manually search for instances of it and rename it yourself and all that. But here, that doesn't seem to have happened either. We're still trying to enable effects on fnt_demo. If we go down to the bottom where draw set font is called, it's still trying to set the font to fnt_demo. If I were to close the code window, if I were to close Arnold, would it be fixed when we come back? It would not. Okay, so that leaves something to be desired. Okay, moving on. So, this does not only apply to GML code, this also applies to shader code, and also, presumably in the future, any other languages that you might be able to use within GameMaker. So, the shader version of Arnold is also split into sections in the same, like, window. You don't have to go back and forth between tabs for the vertex shader and the fragment shader, which is quite nice. I'm hoping that when GameMaker's language server gets more ironed out, we will have better support for code completion in shaders, but that does not appear to be really a thing yet. For the most part, writing shader code seems to be pretty much the same as it was before, except for the part where the window is split into vertex and fragment sections like this. We only have the vertex and fragment sections up at the top. We don't have the symbol identifier the way that we did for GML, so I am hoping that will be a feature someday, but I understand if it's not a priority at the moment. So outside of the realm of actually writing code itself, there's a couple of other things that you can do with Arnold. I've got this note asset here, right? So notes are an asset type which everyone always forgets about in GameMaker. They're basically just like, you know, text files that you can access within the IDE if you want to write down like a change log like I'm doing here, or if you want to write down like a to-do list within the project file itself. Text-based assets, so notes. Arnold 2 supports Markdown. And if you wanted to write like documentation for something like that and have Markdown formatting appear, it will appear in the right half of this window. If you wanted to, let's say, use like monospace code block formatting for something in code, you could do that. You can, boy, now I feel like compelled to add that to the changelogs whenever I write them, just because it works. If you want to like bold something, so let's bold the word, I don't know, let's bold the word quad tree. We can italicize it by putting asterisks around it. You can bold it by putting 2 asterisks around it, like this. I believe underscore should also work for italics, like this. As you can see, bullets work, bullet points work. If I were to just lead off a line with a hyphen like this, or I think also it'll also work if you use an asterisk. As per the Markdown spec, you can get bullet pointed lists like this. You can indent bullet pointed lists like this. If you wanted to include like a hyperlink, you could totally do that. So if you want to include like a link to your itch.io page or your Twitter or whatever in your documentation, as some people sometimes do, you could use a regular like Markdown link syntax for that. So click here for the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Link text in square brackets followed by the actual link destination and curly braces like this, and that'll parse it as a link, and then you can open that up and do whatever. Right, so that's pretty neat. So in addition to in addition to this working for no assets, this will also work for included files. And in this project right now, I don't have any like text-based included files that I can open, but we can fix that real fast. So just all of these GameMaker meta files are JSON, and if I wanted to copy and paste like the YYP or something into the data files folder and just rename that to .json. No, I didn't mean to actually open that for real. Anyway, if you open up this included files list, which you can access from here or probably other parts of the IDE, I don't know. If you have a JSON file, or if you have, I think it'll also work for like XML or CSV or obviously markdown files themselves. You can right-click them and you can say open in Arnold, and that will pop open a an Arnold window, which will open the included file in text, and it'll give it its own syntax highlighting for, in this case, JSON. You can edit this like right here. So some JSON value. This is gonna have to be like in quoted strings, isn't it? Because it's a JSON key name. I don't expect this to get that much use because honestly, if someone wants to edit a CSV file, they're going to pop open a spreadsheet editor. They're not going to use GameMaker for that. If someone wants to edit a JSON file, they're probably not going to do it by hand. I guess maybe they might. They're probably going to use some other external tool for that. If you have like a markdown file and included files for whatever reason, I could see that getting some use. Honestly, if nothing else, GameMaker, because it's got like a live preview on the side, is honestly not the worst markdown editor you could use in general. Usually if I want to edit a markdown file, I'll use this ancient history program called MD Charm, which isn't pretty, but it does the job. And I could see myself just like using GameMaker as my markdown editor from now on, just because it looks nicer. Anyway, was that the last major thing I really wanted to talk about here? So if you go into preferences, and if you scroll down to Arnold 2 beta, where we enable this to begin with, there's a whole bunch of settings. Why can I not click and drag? There we go. There's a whole bunch of settings which you can configure. And most of these are honestly pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go over these all one by one. For example, autofill JS doc header comments. That's when you type 3 slashes and you automatically get the JS doc header comments. I would never turn these things off, but I guess if someone wanted to be able to type 3 comments without like that automatic behavior happening or whatever, then you might want to uncheck that box. Down here, allow overwrite mode. Never check this box, because if you do this, you'll just be constantly annoyed by the overtype behavior. So, some backstory on that. In a lot of old text editors, if you hit the insert key, you would be able to, let's just go into another Arnold 1 window again. If you hit the insert key, that would change your cursor from insert mode to overwrite mode, overtype mode, which you can see by the change in the lower right down here. And now when you start typing, instead of just like inserting text between the letters where your cursor is, you will overwrite text instead. And people were just constantly doing that by accident. And it was like every week, sometimes more than once a week, people would show up on the Discord or the subreddit asking what they did and how to get rid of it. And that's if that ever happens to you, hit the insert key and go back to insert mode. I don't know why this is still a feature. I don't know why this feature survived in any text editor beyond like the days when you were typing code into terminals and doing all your editing in terminals. As far as I'm concerned, overtype mode should have gone the way of the dinosaurs when like the graphical user interface was invented 40 years ago, but anyway, now I'm ranting. So if you want to configure Arnold 2 beyond like what the defaults are, you might want to go into this preferences tab and you might want to change things and, I don't know, change the like tab behavior or something like that. If you go into the themes tab down here, you can configure some other things. Oh, I forgot about the show ligatures. So ligatures will be supported in Arnold 2. I'll get to that in a moment. So you can change the color of various keywords or symbols or variable names or JS-doc things or things like that down here if you'd like. You can change the colors themselves if you don't like the default colors. The two available themes are GameMaker Dark Default and GameMaker Dark Copy. Oh wow, that's a work in progress if ever I saw one. How does that look in the? No, please. All right, that hurts. Let's go back. Anyway, ligatures. So, For those who don't know, ligatures are if you have a certain pair of characters that you might type and you might want it to look like another character, for example, like less than or equal or not equal, or there's a couple of them. Those are the only ones I really remember off the top of my head. Certain fonts support ligatures, and if you're using a font which does, you can check this box and you can have, like, if you go type if A is less than or equal to B, you could have the less than or equals character automatically displayed as, like, this math symbol, like the like you might write in math class. This also works for, as I said, if A is not equal to B, you've got the same thing. I don't know the full list of ligatures that you might use in Arnold off the top of your head, but if you're a sucker for, like, having your code look pretty, then you might want to check this box and make use of those. You know what? Now I'm curious. There's got to be like a list of ligatures that you might commonly find in a programming environment, right? All right, the first link I click on, the first thing at the top of the page is ligatures and programming fonts are a terrible idea. And then there's like some other examples from typography, and then there's a whole bunch of reasons why it's a terrible idea. Well, all right, enough of that. I'm not going to pass judgment on this. I know that some people are enthusiastic about them. I don't really care. I'm gonna turn this off because, like, I'm an old fart who's been writing code since before all these newfangled, like, VS Code, fancy, flashy kids these days, get off my lawn programming things were invented. I grew up using Eclipse, and I thought there was nothing wrong with it. Alright, but I think I've been going on for long enough. That is a whirlwind crash course in Arnold 2. That was a little different from my usual video, but I hope it came out okay all the same. Until next time, my name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons and making games. I like to post videos on weird stuff you can do in GameMaker, so if you're interested in 3D stuff or shader stuff or that kind of thing, feel free to subscribe. I have a Patreon, so if you want to contribute to the channel, links to that can be found in all the usual places. You should all go check out Wizarducks and the Lost Hat, which is the game that I'm working on when I'm not doing YouTube stuff. Link to the Steam page can be found down below. I hope you all enjoyed that, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Zenjamin, VitroV, Squarecrow, Spy Die Games, Manta Ray, GameMaker, Edward Holt, and DJ Gibbles for supporting these videos. If you want to contribute to the channel, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description to join the fun.